Iran just handed Russia €500 million, and in return, they're getting a weapon that could make US helicopters and drones bleed over the Persian Gulf. Iran is looking to rebuild its air defenses after its June 2025 war with Israel left those defenses in ruins, and Moscow just agreed to fill that gap. During Israel's strikes in 2024 and again in the 12-day war of June 2025, Israeli forces destroyed or damaged many of Iran's air defense systems, including its Russian-supplied S-300 long-range surface-to-air missile batteries. These weren't just weapons. The S-300 was the backbone of Iran's high-altitude air defense. Without it, Iranian airspace is basically open sky. Israeli F-35 penetrations and US-aligned precision strikes degraded radar arrays and command centers, leaving Iranian airspace temporarily permissive to adversarial aircraft. That's a polite way of saying enemy jets flew over Iran nearly unopposed. Here's where it gets interesting. Iran's traditional response would have been to go big, demand more S-300s, push for the S-400, maybe even the long-rumored Su-35 fighter jets. But those options are slow, expensive, politically complicated, and, crucially, they create massive fixed targets. If Israel can find and destroy an S-300 battery once, they can do it again. So Tehran took a different approach. Rather than rebuild the same wall that just got knocked down, they decided to scatter. Thousands of small mobile shoulder-fired missile teams deployed across the country, hidden in buildings, vehicles, urban corridors, near nuclear sites. That's the doctrine behind this deal. Can 500 Russian Verba launchers and 2,500 missiles meaningfully change Iran's ability to defend itself or survive a strike from the United States and Israel? On one side, Iran, a country that just lost a short war, is under maximum diplomatic pressure over its nuclear program and is facing the largest US military buildup in the Middle East since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. On the other side, Russia, a country that has been leaning on Iranian drones and missiles to sustain its war in Ukraine, and now needs to demonstrate it's still a valuable partner, not just a customer. Since 2022, Iran has supplied Russia with various unmanned aerial systems, most notably Shahed-136 one-way attack drones that Russia used mainly to strike critical infrastructure inside Ukraine. And Iran also supplied Russia with artillery ammunition and ballistic missiles. The weapons deal is the reciprocal payment: drones and missiles for Verbas and helicopters. This contract is another example of how Moscow and Tehran have bolstered their ties since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And the broker at the center of all this? An Iranian official named Ruhollah Katibi, MODAFL's Moscow-based representative, who previously facilitated Iran's transfer of FAT-360 ballistic missiles to Russia and was sanctioned by the US Treasury in 2024 for doing exactly that. The same man who armed Russia with Iranian missiles is now the man who got Iran Russian ones. But here's where it gets interesting. What exactly did Iran buy? And can the Verba actually deliver on the promise? Most people have heard of the Stinger. It's the missile the CIA gave Afghan Mujahideen in the 1980s that started downing Soviet helicopters. It's the missile Ukraine has used against Russian aircraft in the current war. It's arguably the most iconic shoulder-fired weapon ever made. The Verba is Russia's answer to the Stinger, and in certain respects, it's a generation ahead. The 9K333 Verba manpads is designed to engage aircraft, helicopters, cruise missiles, and UAVs at ranges of 500 meters to 6 to 6.5 kilometers and altitudes up to 4.5 kilometers, with a reaction time under 8 seconds. 8 seconds from detection to launch. That's faster than most pilots can react once a missile is in the air. Here's the critical difference between the Verba and everything that came before it. The Verba's missile is equipped with a 3-spectral homing head that operates in ultraviolet, near-infrared, and mid-infrared ranges. The technology allows for more information about the target and better discrimination against decoys. The Stinger uses an infrared seeker. The Verba uses 3. That's not a minor upgrade. That's the difference between a missile that flares, can fool, and one that cross-checks the heat signature across 3 separate sensor channels before committing to a target. Think about what that means in practice. Modern aircraft are loaded with countermeasures, flares, jamming pods, and directional infrared systems. Against an older manpads, a well-timed burst of flares can seduce the missile away from its target. Against the Verba, and the seeker asks, does this heat source match across all 3 channels? A flare burns hot in infrared, but looks different in ultraviolet. A jet engine looks consistent across all 3. The Verba knows the difference. The Verba complex surpasses earlier portable air defense systems, including its foreign counterparts like the Stinger Block 1. Beyond raw capability, the system also integrates with a broader network. Through an automated control system, a Verba operator can receive targeting data from ground radar or even from airborne early warning aircraft, meaning these aren't just lone soldiers pointing at the sky. They can be cued onto targets before the aircraft is even visible. Before we move on, do you think Iran's dispersed Verba teams could realistically threaten U.S. helicopters in a strike scenario? Drop your prediction below. On February 22, 2026, the Financial Times revealed that Iran finalized a secret agreement with Russia's Rosoboronexport for 509 K333 Verba manpads launchers, 2,509 M336 missiles, and associated night vision equipment. The contract was reportedly signed in Moscow in December 2025. Let's put that in perspective. 500 launchers, 2,500 missiles. That's 5 missiles per launcher, enough to sustain combat operations without constant resupply. The cost of a single missile is 170,000 euros, about $185,000, while a launcher costs 40,000 euros. For comparison, a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter costs roughly $21 million. If a $185,000 Verba missile brings one down, that's over a 100-to-1 cost ratio in Iran's favor. The deal includes 500 Mogli 2 night vision sites alongside the launchers, which tells you something about the doctrine. This isn't a daytime air defense setup. These teams are designed to operate at night, hidden, mobile, and quiet, exactly the kind of threat that makes mission planners nervous. Deliveries are scheduled in 3 tranches between 2027 and 2029, although a smaller number of systems may have been transferred earlier. Now, who brokered this? The negotiations were conducted through Ruhollah Katabi, who had previously organized the sale of FATH 360 ballistic missiles to Russia. The U.S. Treasury sanctioned him in 2024 for acting on behalf of MODAFL. The deal was made not by diplomats, but by a sanctioned arms broker operating out of Moscow. That alone tells you how this relationship works. Outside international frameworks, beneath diplomatic radar. And confirmation came from an unlikely source. Iran's ambassador to Moscow, Qasem Jalali, publicly acknowledged that military cargo transfers confirmed the operational execution of the arms agreement, saying the deliveries demonstrated the partnership was being implemented. Not a denial, a confirmation. Russia, meanwhile, has said nothing. Rosoboronexport didn't respond to press inquiries. The Kremlin declined to comment. The Iranian embassy in London was silent. The Verba is a genuine threat, but it's a specific threat, with specific limits. Understanding both is what actually matters. What it's good at, unlike the S-400 or even S-300 batteries, The Verba does not create high-value fixed targets that adversaries prioritize in opening salvos. Its shoulder-fired configuration enables concealment within civilian terrain, with increasing ambiguity in battle space identification. That matters enormously. One of the core pillars of U.S. and Israeli air campaign doctrine is suppression of enemy air defenses, SEAD. You find the radar, you kill the radar, then you own the sky. The Verba has no fixed radar. It doesn't emit. You can't locate it with a HARM missile. It's a man, a tube, and a missile, standing in a parking lot or on a rooftop, deployed across Iran's geography near Natanz, Fordo, Parshian, command nodes, port facilities. These 500 teams force an adversary to account for a low-altitude threat from virtually anywhere. That stretches intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance resources and adds friction to any strike package. What it's genuinely dangerous against? Helicopters. Any combat search and rescue operation following a strike. Surveillance drones flying at medium to low altitudes. Cruise missiles on terminal approach. Iranian forces could use manpads to target drones, helicopters, or other low-flying aircraft, which would complicate potential U.S. air assaults or search and rescue missions. But here's the honest limitation, and this is what keeps U.S. planners from losing sleep over it entirely. These systems would be of little help against fighter jets and bombers flying at higher altitudes. An F-35 conducting a strike from 20,000 feet or dropping precision munitions from standoff range is entirely outside the Verba's engagement envelope. It maxes out at around 4.5 kilometers altitude, roughly 14,700 feet. The most modern strike packages operate well above that. The Verba also has a combat track record that carries an asterisk. The Verba had success in the Donbass against the Ukrainian Air Force before the invasion, shooting down enough aircraft that the Ukrainians paused their flights. But during the broader invasion, Verba and other Russian air defense systems did not dominate the skies as expected. Abandoned Verbas were found by Ukrainian forces in the early weeks of the war. The system is only as effective as the soldiers behind it. So the honest picture is this: 500 Verba teams don't stop a major air campaign. They complicate the follow-on. They threaten the helicopters that come in for search and rescue after a strike. They threaten the drones loitering for bomb damage assessment. They make the mission riskier and more expensive. That's not nothing, but it's also not a shield. This deal isn't just about the Verba. The Verba is the headline. The deeper story is what it represents about the Russia-Iran axis. What other weapons could be next? The Verba deal exists inside a much larger architecture. News of the Manpads deal comes after reports that Russia began delivering Mi-28NE attack helicopters to Iran in January, a significant upgrade over Iran's aging pre-revolution AH-1 Cobras, which were provided by the United States in the 1970s. Iran is also believed to be pursuing Su-35 multi-role fighters, and it did begin receiving Russian Yak-130 training jets in 2023. Think about what that combination looks like in a few years. Modern attack helicopters, jet trainers, fighter jets, and thousands of shoulder-fired missiles capable of defending them on the ground. This isn't Iran patching holes. This is Iran rebuilding its military from the ground up using Russian hardware. The Verba agreement unfolds within a deepening bilateral defense architecture, formalized by a January 2025 strategic partnership treaty encompassing economic and military cooperation. That treaty gave formal structure to a relationship that had been building informally since 2022. Russian officials have spoken out in opposition to potential U.S. military strikes on Iran, calling for all parties to show restraint. Russian and Chinese vessels joined Iran in naval exercises near the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman. That last line matters. Naval exercises at the Strait of Hormuz, sewer through which roughly 20% of global oil supply passes. Russia, China, and Iran conducting joint drills in the most geopolitically sensitive waterway on Earth. At the same moment, Iran is rearming with Russian weapons and negotiating its nuclear program with the United States. The Verba deal is a data point. The axis it represents is the story. This agreement underscores growing military cooperation between Russia and Iran. Tehran has supplied Moscow with drones and missile systems for the war against Ukraine, and in early 2025, the two sides announced a strategic partnership. That exchange, Iranian offensive weapons for Russian defensive ones, is now a functioning trade loop, and it's accelerating. So, can 500 Verba launchers and 2,500 missiles meaningfully change Iran's ability to defend itself? The answer is, partially, and specifically. They will not stop an American or Israeli air campaign. F-35s and B-2s operating at altitude are beyond the Verba's reach. The big-ticket strikes, taking out enrichment facilities, command centers, missile stockpiles. Those missions don't become significantly harder because of manpads. But the campaign after the strike? That gets harder. Search and rescue becomes riskier. Surveillance drones have to fly higher and stay farther away, reducing resolution. Any scenario involving helicopters, assault teams, special operations, rapid response forces now carries real elevated risk. And that matters for mission planning, for risk tolerance, and ultimately for political will. The Verba also matters as a signal. Russia just sold Iran its most modern shoulder-fired air defense system. That's not a weapon you give an adversary. It's a weapon you give a partner. Combined with the Mi-28 deliveries, the ongoing Su-35 negotiations, the joint naval exercises, and the January 2025 Strategic Partnership Treaty, the Verba deal is a piece of a much larger puzzle, and that puzzle looks increasingly like a formalized military alliance between two sanctioned states sitting at the edges of two active conflict zones. By 2027, when the first Verba deliveries are scheduled, we'll likely know whether the nuclear negotiations succeeded or collapsed. If they collapsed, those 500 teams would be in position. If they succeed, the weapons will still be there, because arms deals don't come with return policies. The question is how far this goes before someone decides to act, and what that action looks like in a region where Russia, China, and Iran are now running joint naval drills.